In the quiet darkness of Greenwood Village, a sudden blaze shattered the tranquility of the small town. When the flames were extinguished, what remained was a pile of ashes and a charred body, unrecognizable to the naked eye. But this was no ordinary fire. A blood-stained knife, faint footprints leading into the shadows, and a silver ring left behind all hinted at a horrifying mystery. Who was behind this ruthless act? And what truly happened in that little house on the fateful night? The answers will send shivers down your spine. Part 1. The Crime Scene. On the night of October 15, 2023, in a quiet village named Greenwood Village, 30 miles from downtown Houston, Texas, a horrifying crime shocked the peaceful community. A small wooden house on the edge of the woods was engulfed in flames, leaving behind a charred body inside and raising more questions than answers. The scene of the incident was grim from the moment authorities arrived. Local police were called to the location at a.m. by a neighbor, Michael Brown, who had noticed smoke billowing from the house during his nightly rounds. Firefighters quickly responded, but the fire had already consumed most of the wooden structure. After over an hour of effort, the flames were extinguished, revealing a scene of destruction and despair. Amidst the rubble, the body of the victim was discovered in the kitchen, near a corner of the room. The remains were so badly burned that identification was impossible at first glance. The victim's position in the kitchen raised suspicions, as the surrounding area did not exhibit the same degree of fire damage as other parts of the house. This anomaly suggested that the fire might have been intentionally set. Police Chief David Carter, who led the investigation, described the scene. This is not just a simple house fire. There are clear indications that this was a deliberate act, and it's likely the victim was deceased before the fire began. Several key pieces of evidence were documented at the scene. A metal bucket containing kerosene was discarded in the backyard. The bucket still had traces of the flammable liquid believed to have been used to ignite the fire. Footprints were found on the wet ground, leading from the back door of the house into the nearby woods. In the charred kitchen, a kitchen knife with dried blood was found buried under the rubble. Additionally, the front door of the house showed signs of being forcibly opened. The frame was cracked, with a large dent that suggested the use of a blunt object to break in. Outside the door, investigators found a few torn strands of black fabric cut on the splintered wood. Neighbor Michael Brown, who discovered the fire, shared his observations with reporters. "I heard loud arguing from the house around midnight, then complete silence. An hour later, I saw smoke and flames starting to rise. Forensic teams were called to the scene to collect evidence and handle the remains. The victim's body was transported to the laboratory for further examination to determine their identity and cause of death." Residents of Greenwood Village, accustomed to a peaceful existence, were deeply shaken by the event. "We've never seen anything like this before," said Linda Jenkins, a local resident. "Someone did this with clear intent, and I feel scared knowing they're out there." The crime scene has since been cordoned off entirely. While authorities have yet to release an official statement regarding the perpetrator or motive, the case is being treated as a severe homicide with complex circumstances. With a scene riddled with anomalies and unanswered questions, the burning inquiry remains. What truly happened in that small house in Greenwood Village on that fateful night? Part 2. The victim's identity and the investigation process. The investigation into the chilling Greenwood Village fire took a significant step forward when police identified the victim as James Wilson, a 48-year-old resident and the owner of the burned house. Wilson, described by neighbors as a reserved and independent man, had been living alone since his divorce from Emily Harper 3 years prior. Skilled carpenter by trade, he was known for repairing furniture for local residents. However, beneath his seemingly quiet life lay a history marked by tension and unresolved disputes. According to those who knew him, Wilson had been embroiled in financial troubles and personal conflicts in recent months. This revelation pushed investigators to delve deeper into his connections and lifestyle in search of possible motives and suspects. Key forensic findings. A detailed forensic report shed light on critical details of the case. Cause of death. Autopsy results confirmed that James Wilson had been murdered before the fire. Multiple stab wounds to his chest and abdomen caused significant blood loss, leading to his death hours before the blaze was set. Time of death. Wilson was determined to have died around p.m., 3 hours before neighbors reported the fire. This time gap pointed to deliberate efforts by the perpetrator to cover their tracks. Crime scene evidence. The blood-stained kitchen knife found in the debris was confirmed as the murder weapon. DNA analysis identified 2 sets of footprints leading from the back door, one belonging to Wilson and another to an unidentified individual. A torn piece of fabric found on the splintered doorframe was linked to a black jacket commonly sold locally, suggesting the suspect might be someone familiar with the area. Investigation efforts. As the forensic evidence provided clarity, the investigation team, led by Police Chief David Carter, divided their focus into 2 primary directions. Examining the victim's residence. A search of Wilson's home revealed significant findings. A handwritten note containing threats was discovered in his bedroom. The note demanded repayment of a $50,000 debt within 30 days and warned of severe consequences if ignored. A ledger kept by Wilson recorded various financial transactions, including loans he had given to friends and associates, further highlighting his entanglement in money disputes. A silver ring, partially burned, was found near the victim's body. The ring did not fit Wilson, suggesting it belonged to someone else present during the crime. Interviewing key witnesses. Police began questioning those closest to Wilson, including his ex-wife, neighbors, and acquaintances. Emily Harper, Wilson's ex-wife, revealed that while she had no contact with him for over a year, she was aware of his financial struggles and his alleged involvement in gambling. She denied any knowledge of threats or conflicts, but failed to provide a solid alibi for the night of the incident. Michael Brown, the neighbor who discovered the fire, mentioned seeing a suspicious black car parked near Wilson's house that evening. Although he could not identify the vehicle's owner, this information prompted a review of nearby surveillance footage. Breakthrough from a witness. A new lead emerged when Rebecca Smith, an employee at a nearby gas station, reported seeing a woman matching Emily Harper's description purchasing kerosene at around p.m. on the night of the crime. Surveillance footage from the gas station showed the woman, whose face was partially obscured, hurriedly leaving after the purchase. Smith recalled, "She seemed nervous and in a rush. I didn't think much of it until I heard about the fire the next day." The police retrieved the receipt for the kerosene purchase, which confirmed it was paid for in cash. While the identity of the woman in the footage remained uncertain, the physical resemblance to Harper added to growing suspicions. Emerging suspicions. As the investigation deepened, several key figures emerged as potential suspects. Emily Harper. Her hair, matching the strands found at the crime scene, and the possible connection to the gas station footage made her a prime suspect. Investigators also noted her contentious divorce with Wilson, where disputes over property left unresolved tensions. Daniel Harris loan shark. A series of threatening notes linked to Harris's handwriting raised suspicions about his involvement. Harris admitted to loaning Wilson a significant amount of money, but denied being near Greenwood Village on the night of the crime. Michael Brown, neighbor, initially a witness, Brown's account began to appear inconsistent. Investigators found scratches on his arms, which he attributed to working in the yard, though the timing and lack of corroborating evidence cast doubt on his story. The web of clues tightens. As the pieces of evidence began to form a clearer picture, Chief Carter remarked, "This is no random act of violence. Every clue points to someone with a personal vendetta against Mr. Wilson. Now, it's about connecting the dots and closing the circle on this case." The combined evidence, the gas station footage, the threatening notes, and the financial records painted a scenario involving betrayal, rage, and desperation. With suspects under increased surveillance and new leads emerging, the investigation gained momentum. The truth behind James Wilson's tragic death was within reach, but it was clear that the path to justice would reveal more dark secrets before the case could be closed. Part 3. The Suspects and Key Clues. Title: Tangled Motives, the Suspects in Greenwood Village's Tragic Case. As the investigation into James Wilson's murder unfolded, the spotlight turned to a complex web of relationships and unresolved conflicts. Each suspect brought forth a compelling motive, leaving investigators with the challenge of sorting truth from deception. The key suspects: Emily Harper, ex-wife. Wilson's ex-wife, Emily Harper, became a focal point early in the investigation. Her contentious divorce with Wilson and the discovery of hair strands matching her DNA at the crime scene raised red flags. Connection to the gas station footage. Investigators analyzed the grainy surveillance video of a woman purchasing kerosene near the time of the fire. While the footage was inconclusive, Harper's height and general appearance matched the individual seen in the recording. Unresolved property dispute. Police uncovered records of heated arguments between Harper and Wilson regarding ownership of the Greenwood Village house. Witnesses described Harper as bitter about Wilson's refusal to sell the property and split the proceeds. Harper denied any involvement during questioning, but inconsistencies in her alibi heightened suspicion. When pressed about the hair strands, she stammered, offering a vague explanation. I might have visited the house a few months ago, but I don't remember leaving anything behind. Daniel Harris, loan shark, another primary suspect. Daniel Harris was tied to the victim through financial entanglements. As a known loan shark in Houston, Harris had reportedly lent Wilson $50,000 to cover gambling debts, but Wilson had failed to repay the amount. Threatening letters. Forensic analysis linked Harris's handwriting to notes found in Wilson's bedroom, demanding immediate repayment. Potential motive. Investigators speculated that Harris could have orchestrated the murder as a warning to other delinquent borrowers. However, Harris maintained his innocence, stating, "I run a tough business, but I don't kill people over money." Despite his denial, Harris's inability to provide a solid alibi for the night of the murder kept him under scrutiny. Michael Brown, neighbor. Initially considered a helpful witness, Michael Brown became a suspect after several inconsistencies in his story. Suspicious behavior. Brown claimed he heard arguing at Wilson's house the night of the murder, but no other neighbors corroborated this account. Physical evidence. Scratches on Brown's arms raised questions. He attributed them to yard work, but investigators noted the scratches were fresh and consistent with defensive wounds. Brown also admitted to seeing Emily Harper visiting Wilson's house weeks before the incident, but failed to mention this during his initial statement. Rebecca Smith, gas station employee. While not an immediate suspect, Rebecca Smith, the gas station employee, was flagged for her unexpected connection to the victim. Romantic history. Smith confessed to having a brief romantic relationship with Wilson 2 years prior. Though the relationship ended, it reportedly left unresolved tension. Threatening text message. A deleted message retrieved from Wilson's phone read, "You can't just walk away like nothing happened." The number was traced back to Smith, though she claimed it was unrelated to the incident. Critical clues emerge. The silver ring. The partially burned ring found near Wilson's body provided a critical breakthrough. Investigators discovered it belonged to Emily Harper, further solidifying her presence at the scene. When confronted, Harper insisted the ring had been stolen, though she never reported it missing. The fabric sample. A torn piece of black fabric found on the splintered front door was sent for analysis. The material matched a jacket Harris was known to wear, placing him in Greenwood Village on the night of the murder. The kerosene purchase. The gas station receipt and footage continue to be a focal point. Police theorized that the woman in the video deliberately paid in cash to avoid detection, and Harper remained the most likely match. Rising tensions among the suspects. With the evidence mounting, police decided to re-interview each suspect, leading to cracks in their stories. Emily Harper's slip-up. During her second interrogation, Harper let slip that she knew the fire started in the kitchen, a detail not publicly disclosed. When questioned, she quickly backtracked, claiming it was a lucky guess. Michael Brown's admission. Under pressure, Brown admitted to seeing a black car parked outside Wilson's house the night of the murder. He identified it as similar to one Harris owned, but failed to explain why he initially omitted this detail. Rebecca Smith's distress. Smith broke down during her third interview, admitting that she had seen Harper and Wilson arguing at the gas station weeks before the murder. She described Harper as angry and aggressive, adding another layer of suspicion. The investigation narrows. With multiple suspects and overlapping motives, the investigation reached a critical juncture. Chief Carter summarized the challenges. This case is like a puzzle where every piece seems to fit in more than one place. But the truth is in the details, and we're starting to see the full picture. The forensic evidence, combined with conflicting statements and new revelations, pointed investigators toward a carefully planned crime with deep personal motives. The web of deceit was beginning to unravel, but one question lingered: who orchestrated this deadly plot, and how far were they willing to go to cover their tracks? The answer lay just around the corner, as police prepared to confront the suspects and uncover the shocking truth behind James Wilson's death. Part 4. The Hunt for the Killer, the Revelation, and Closing the Case. The investigation into James Wilson's murder had reached its breaking point. With mounting evidence and suspects entangled in a web of lies, the police were ready to make their move. The clues, each pointing in different directions, finally converged on a single, shocking truth. But first, the killer had to be caught. The final clue: a secret witness. While reviewing footage from nearby traffic cameras, investigators found a critical lead: a black sedan driving away from Wilson's house shortly after p.m. on the night of the murder. The license plate, though partially obscured, matched a vehicle registered to Emily Harper. This discovery placed her directly at the scene of the crime. Simultaneously, an anonymous tip from an individual claiming to have seen Harper and Michael Brown together near Wilson's house days before the murder gave investigators the push they needed to act. The tipster described overhearing a heated conversation about money and teaching someone a lesson. The arrest and the interrogation. Armed with evidence, police issued a warrant for Harper's arrest. However, when officers arrived at her residence, Harper had vanished. Tracking her phone led the police to a small motel on the outskirts of Houston, where she was apprehended after a brief standoff. During the arrest, officers recovered the black jacket from her car, the same fabric that matched the torn piece found at the crime scene. At the station, Harper initially maintained her innocence. But when confronted with the evidence, the ring, the jacket, the traffic footage, and the kerosene receipt, her demeanor shifted. Still, she refused to take full responsibility, deflecting blame onto Michael Brown. Michael Brown cracks. Simultaneously, police brought Michael Brown in for further questioning. The pressure was too much for him, and he finally broke down, revealing the full extent of the crime. Brown admitted that Harper had approached him weeks before the murder, asking for his help to scare Wilson into giving up the property. Brown, lured by promises of money, agreed to help. However, things escalated when Harper and Wilson argued violently on the night of the crime. According to Brown, "I thought we were just going to talk, maybe rough him up a bit, but she lost it. She stabbed him, and I panicked. After Wilson's death, Harper coerced Brown into helping her cover up the murder. They staged the fire using kerosene purchased earlier that evening and fled the scene." The motive revealed. Harper's motive was deeply rooted in resentment and greed. Her divorce from Wilson had left her financially strained, and his refusal to sell the house became the tipping point. For Harper, the murder was not just about money, it was personal. Brown, on the other hand, was a desperate accomplice, driven by the prospect of financial gain. The trial and convictions, with confessions from both Harper and Brown, combined with the overwhelming forensic evidence, the case was swiftly brought to trial. Harper was convicted of first-degree murder, arson, and tampering with evidence. She was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Brown, charged as an accessory to murder and arson, received a 15-year sentence. Aftermath, reflection, and lessons learned. The case of James Wilson's murder left an indelible mark on Greenwood Village. What began as a mysterious fire revealed the dark depths of human emotions: greed, anger, and betrayal. For Police Chief Carter, the case underscored the importance of patience and precision in uncovering the truth. Justice is never simple. It's a process of piecing together the fragments of a broken story. And in this case, every detail mattered, the community shaken but relieved, returned to a semblance of normalcy. Yet, the memory of Wilson's tragic end served as a somber reminder of how quickly unresolved anger and desperation can spiral into violence. For now, Greenwood Village could rest easy, knowing that the truth had finally come to light and justice had been served.